At the time when the majestic and sprawling Cambodian temple complex of Banteay Chhmar was built around 1200, the Khmer Empire had reached its greatest territorial expanse, extending across much of peninsular Southeast Asia. King Jayavarman VII, who ruled from 1181 to 1218, was the Khmer ruler largely responsible for expanding the empire to such an extent. He is shown here in a bas-relief sculpture at Banteay Chhmar, leading Khmer troops to one of many victories. The Banteay Chhmar reliefs are filled with detailed depictions of battles, mostly between Khmer soldiers who have crossed chest straps, and the Cham, their neighbors to the east from Champa, a country now mainly in Vietnam. Cham warriors can be recognized by their flared jackets and helmets that have flower-shaped finials. In one of his first major victories, a naval battle on the Tonle Sap in 1181, King Jayavarman VII succeeded in repulsing the Cham from the Khmer capital at Angkor. Angkor was the capital of the Khmer Empire from the early 800s to the 1400s, during what is called the Angkorian period in Cambodian history. Angkor means the city and is located on the banks of the Tonle Sap, a lake connected to a strategic waterway. In Angkor, Khmer kings, nobles, and religious leaders from the 800s to the 1200s built monumental stone temples and other royal structures. Preah Ko, for example, is one of the first, dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva, finished in 879. Angkor Wat, built in the early 1100s, was dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu before it was converted for Buddhist usage in the post-Angkorian period. About 50 years after the completion of Angkor Wat by one of his predecessors, Jayavarman VII added many important buildings and structures at Angkor, notably his temple mountain called the Bayon, whose central sacred image is a Buddha seated on a serpent. About 70 miles northwest of Angkor, at Banteay Chhmar, Jayavarman VII established his second citadel. Though mainly in ruins today, Banteay Chhmar was once a sprawling royal temple and administrative center. It consisted of a vast complex of buildings and vaulted corridors, with lavishly sculpted lintels and entablatures, many with narrative scenes from the Indian epic Ramayana. At least 50 of the shrines and gateways were topped with face towers, the instantly recognizable and uniquely Khmer architectural form that was an innovation during the reign of Jayavarman VII. Gently smiling and powerful in their superhuman monumentality, the faces are both merged with and emerge from the architectural superstructures of Jayavarman VII period temples. No inscription or text has been discovered that specifically names them or clearly explains their meaning. The sacred space of the temple precinct was demarcated from the outside world by a rectangular enclosure wall that was carved all over its outward-facing sides with intricate bas-relief sculptures. A stone roof protected the reliefs until it collapsed after Banteay Chhmar was abandoned, probably around the mid-1400s. The enclosure wall of Banteay Chhmar was carved with a total of 1,765 running feet of bas-relief sculpture, exceeding even those at the Bayon, the only other Jayavarman VII monument to be embellished with bas-reliefs. The reliefs include historical, mythical, epic, and devotional scenes, widely ranging in subject matter and scale. The surviving sculpture from Banteay Chhmar is critical to our understanding of this important historical period, since its singular Buddhist imagery was not recarved or altered for use by other religious groups after the death of Jayavarman VII, as were many of the carvings in the capital at Angkor. The remote location of Banteay Chhmar and the geographies of post-Angkorian polities contributed to the preservation of the imagery, but conversely led to its disuse, erosion, and partial collapse. Jayavarman VII did not have a strong successor, and after his death in 1218, Khmer power receded until the 1400s, when Khmer territories were taken over by the Thai. Angkor was renamed Siem Reap, defeated by Siam, and Banteay Chhmar was abandoned. Roots and vines pried the unmortared sandstone blocks apart. and heavy monsoon rains contributed to the destabilization of the structures. Nature quickly took over. The scale and grandeur of the original complex at Banteay Chhmar has been digitally reconstructed by Dr. Olivier Cunin, archaeological architect and researcher specializing in Banteay Chhmar. First, a visitor must cross a rectangular moat on one of 4 causeways, on each of which a row of demons on one side and gods on the other side churn the primordial ocean with the body of a serpent to extract the nectar of immortality. Crossing a broad space that once held wooden buildings for temple administration, living quarters, and hospitals, one would approach the covered enclosure wall surrounding the temple precinct, here from the main east entrance. One first encounters a shrine to fallen heroes. Next to it is the fire temple, in which a sacred fire was installed. The Hall of Dancers, which may have been used for monks to walk in meditation, is a series of covered corridors. Then follows the 8 main sanctums. Each contained a sculpture of a sacred image that was linked to a member of the royal family or priesthood in a kind of apotheosis, or posthumous deification. One of the central towers held a sandstone sculpture of Prajna Paramita, the female personification of the wisdom of all enlightened beings, the chosen form under which Jayavarman VII's mother was venerated, now in the collection of the National Museum of Cambodia in Phnom Penh. Subsidiary buildings would have held shrines with other stone images, manuscripts, bronzes for ritual use, and the temple treasuries. Exiting the temple at the west gate, the 8 Lokeshvaras would be immediately at the left, carved in bas-relief on the rear enclosure wall, facing west, the direction of the paradise of Amitabha, the Buddha of the West, red like the sunset, and the parent of Lokeshvara. Over time, without maintenance, the pillars holding up the roof collapsed, and the southern side of Banteay Chhmar's west wall survives now with only a small section still standing. In the reliefs of Banteay Chhmar, and only at Banteay Chhmar, King Jayavarman VII is often shown together with his chosen heir, Prince Vidyanandana, in procession, performing religious rites, and succeeding in military conquests as seen in this Banteay Chhmar relief of their victory against the Cham in 1190. According to inscriptions, Jayavarman VII had selected him to be his successor instead of one of his own sons. Remarkably, Prince Vidyanandana was Cham by ethnicity, but he fought on the side of the Khmer. Prince Vidyanandana would one day betray Jayavarman VII. In 1192, he ousted the Cham ruler, but kept the territories for himself, and by 1194 he had repelled all Khmer attempts to recapture them and named himself King of Champa, independent of Jayavarman VII. The reliefs at Banteay Chhmar commemorate their relationship without any indication of their split. The 8 great Lokeshvaras, personifying the superhuman power of compassion, with their oversized scale and multi-armed iconographies, are located at the culminating end of Banteay Chhmar's sculptural programs of war and rituals, protecting the empire and redeeming her souls. The reign of Jayavarman VII marked the end of the Angkorian era of monumental stone temple building, unparalleled in scale anywhere in the history of world civilizations, and Banteay Chhmar stands as its final moment of grandeur.